Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth part of the Portsmouth, New Hampshire Jazz History presentation. The first two episodes of this talk, sponsored by the Seacoast Jazz Society, took place online during the pandemic for the Portsmouth Public Library. Part 3, funded by the New Hampshire Humanities to Go program, was presented at Plymouth State University in October of 2025, and this slideshow is a continuation of that third presentation. Links to all of the material can be found at no charge on my website, charliejennison.com. The third talk began with an introduction to some of the most influential musicians in the Seacoast area of New Hampshire, and an explanation of how the establishment of a jazz education program and a traditional jazz series at the University of New Hampshire led to a collaboration with those musicians to create the thriving Seacoast jazz scene we enjoy today. The musicians you'll hear about in this presentation are enjoying successful careers in education and performance, all due to the influence of this unique interaction that started with the cultural renaissance of Portsmouth in the 1970s. Charlie Kohlhase, a Portsmouth native, is a mainstay of the Boston jazz scene. He got his start in jazz with lessons from me in the 1970s while attending UNH, where he also hosted a radio program. Known for his contemporary and improvised style, Charlie has led or collaborated in over a dozen innovative groups, performing nationally and in the Seacoast area. He's been an artist in residence at Harvard and hosts the modern jazz radio show Research and Development on WMBR. Tom Bergeron, a multi-instrumentalist from Manchester, began his music journey with Roland Belisle, who learned from Fats Waller. His time as a UNH student studying with Dave Seiler was pivotal, but his musical journey had earlier roots as a bassoonist with the New Hampshire Philharmonic. He co-founded the jazz collective Antares, a fixture on the New England scene, and I first jammed with him there in the 1970s. After earning a doctorate in saxophone, he taught at Western Oregon University for 28 years, covering diverse topics from jazz to ethnomusicology. Jeff Coffin. I met Jeff during his high school years in Rochester, New Hampshire. Recognizing his unconventional approach to music, I helped him develop a two-saxophone fingering system during his brief study at UNH. Now a celebrated musician known for his dynamic compositions and improvisations, Jeff is a member of the Dave Matthews Band. He's also a three-time Grammy winner from his 14-year tenure with Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. Beyond performing, Jeff is dedicated to music education, teaching at Vanderbilt University, and has authored books, produced music, and is an accomplished photographer. Dave Pietro, a native of Southborough, Massachusetts, Dave left UNH with Jeff to attend the jazz program at North Texas State University. Since arriving on the New York music scene in 1987, Dave's become an in-demand saxophonist, composer, and educator. He's performed and taught in over 30 countries and is a member of the Grammy Award-winning Maria Schneider Orchestra and other Grammy-nominated groups. Dave currently shares his expertise with students at New York University. Here's some more former UNH sax players. Jim Pisano is a multi-woodwind specialist, and he earned both his bachelor's and master's degree in clarinet performance from UNH and the University of Miami, respectively. He's since shared the stage with many jazz luminaries, including Phil Woods, Clark Terry, and Louis Bellson. Beyond his prolific performance career, Jim is a dedicated educator and serves as the director of jazz ensembles and professor of jazz and concert saxophone at Wichita State University. Upper right, Steve Guerra. Before joining the faculty at the Frost School of Music in Miami, Steve was a high school band director in Concord and Pelham, New Hampshire, where he also established jazz education programs for community music schools. As a student in my saxophone studio in the 1980s, he earned his bachelor's in saxophone performance from UNH. A highly sought-after composer and arranger, his work has been commissioned by artists like Dave Koz, Ben Folds, and Carmen Bradford. Today, he directs the award-winning Frost Studio Jazz Band and teaches composition and arranging. He was a recent guest artist at the University of New Hampshire in Durham, conducting and performing with the UNH Jazz Band. Lower left, Travis Sullivan. Alto saxophonist and composer Travis Sullivan has been a fixture of the New York music scene for decades. His unique musical voice, described by Jazz Times as strong and commanding, led to his breakthrough in 2004 with Travis Sullivan's Bjorkestra, an 18-piece big band performing his arrangements of Icelandic artist Bjork's music. This group has gained international recognition through performances at festivals around the world. And lower right, after graduating from UNH in 1990, Mark LaForce dedicated himself to music education in the Seacoast area. For decades, he's been a member of the Seacoast Big Band and a faculty member at UNH's Summer Youth Music School. As the music director at Oyster River High School, Mark has cultivated a lasting passion for music among new generations of students. UNH trumpet players. Upper left, a child prodigy, Trent Austin won a scholarship to study classical trumpet at UNH and was a featured performer at the 1992 Montreux Jazz Festival. He continued to excel, performing with jazz legends like Clark Terry and Maria Schneider. For 11 years, he was a featured soloist with the Artie Shaw Orchestra. A committed educator, Trent taught at the University of Southern Maine for 9 years and now hosts online trumpet and improvisation lessons while running a world-renowned brass shop in Kansas City. Lower left, Dave Ballou, a trumpeter and composer, earned his master's degree from UNH in 1992. His career has taken him from Broadway's Tony Award-winning 42nd Street to collaborations with artists like Maria Schneider, Steely Dan, and Woody Herman. A highly respected educator, he's professor at Towson University and has served on the faculty of numerous jazz camps. Top center Jay Daly, New Hampshire native Jay Daly's 40-year career as a freelance trumpeter began with playing lead trumpet for the UNH Jazz Band, which performed with Clark Terry at the Montreux International Jazz Festival. Though he briefly taught after college, he soon became a full-time performer, playing for audiences across the globe with groups like the Artie Shaw Orchestra and the Harry James Orchestra. Known for his versatility, he also serves as the musical contractor for the North Shore Music Theater. Taylor Haskins, center bottom, hailing from the woods of southern New Hampshire, Taylor arrived at UNH and quickly developed a distinct imaginative approach to music that would shape his career. After earning his UNH bachelor's degree in 1993, Taylor moved to New York City, where he faced the competitive and unforgiving music scene. Despite the challenges, his unique artistry earned him respect and recognition. His career is a testament to embracing diverse opportunities. In addition to releasing 5 albums of original compositions, he spent 15 years composing music for media, contributing to major films, and scoring dozens of national commercials. He recently relocated from New York to the Champlain Valley region of the Adirondacks, a move that undoubtedly influences his evolving creative process. And on the far right, Tom Palance, another gifted trumpeter, has built a multifaceted career as an instrumentalist, conductor, and educator. After graduating from UNH, he dedicated 20 years to serving in the United States Navy Band in Washington. This experience honed his skills and discipline, but also set the stage for a new chapter, pivoting to education. Following his distinguished military career, Tom returned to academia. After teaching at UNH and Salem State University, he became a professor at the esteemed Berklee College of Music in Boston. As the music director for Orchestra on the Hill in Ipswich, Massachusetts, he demonstrates his commitment to community outreach through artistic collaborations. His career shows how a music degree can provide a foundation for diverse and impactful leadership roles. Chris Burbank. Staff Sergeant Christopher Burbank's story highlights the transformative power of perseverance and dedication. Starting in Bedford, New Hampshire, Chris earned his bachelor's from UNH and continued his education at Juilliard and the University of Miami's Frost School. While at Juilliard, he immersed himself in the competitive New York City jazz scene, performing at top clubs like Dizzy's Coca-Cola Club and Smalls. His transition from the jazz club scene to serving in military bands, first in the U.S. Naval Academy Band and now with the U.S. Army Blues, showcases his versatility and commitment to both country and craft. In 2014, he was named a semi-finalist for the prestigious Thelonious Monk International Jazz Trumpet Competition, a testament to his talent and discipline. Now we turn to some UNH pianists. Jim Butka's journey is an inspiring example of a musician who found purpose and community by blending his performance career with a passion for education. Unlike those who sought fame in distant cities, Jim remained a stalwart of the local scene. His story proves that a successful musical career can be deeply rooted in one's own community, providing inspiration and mentorship right at home. Jim has been the pianist with the Seacoast Big Band for many years. Greg Mangiafico's career, and he's upper left here in the photos, is a masterclass in versatility and artistic adaptation. After graduating from UNH in 1978 and spending a few years in the Seacoast, he made the difficult decision to move to New York City in 1981 to seek larger opportunities. His career there began with humble gigs in restaurants and small venues in Greenwich Village and Midtown Manhattan, before his big break, which was joining the pit band for the off-Broadway production of The Little Shop of Horrors. This pivotal experience opened the door to a world of opportunity, including subbing for the Radio City Orchestra and performing session work with some of the biggest names in the industry, including Billy Joel, Carly Simon, and Michael Bolton. His journey demonstrates the power of persistence and the willing to embrace diverse musical roles. Left below, Mark Shalansky. Growing up in Concord, New Hampshire, Mark's musical journey began early, writing songs in elementary school and playing in rock bands. He pursued jazz studies at the Concord Community Music School before earning his bachelor's in music performance from UNH in 1992. While at UNH, he apprenticed with jazz legends like Clark Terry and Phil Woods, deepening his passion. He continued his studies at the New England Conservatory, earning a master's in jazz studies and studying with renowned teachers such as Paul Bley. Mark's career milestones include his debut CD, First Look, a jazz piano trio recording, and subsequent albums that blended jazz with singer-songwriter influences like Elvis Costello and Steely Dan. He's featured on over 60 recordings as a keyboard, vocalist, composer, and producer, and he's performed with artists like Luciana Souza and the New York Voices. Since 1997, Mark's been an associate professor at Berklee College of Music, teaching ear training, arranging, harmony, and ensembles. He also teaches jazz piano and ensembles at UNH. His unique approach involves connecting musical styles, exploring the balance between composition and improvisation, and incorporating a sense of humor into his performances. His mission is to embrace musical history while forging connections between styles to express a personal music vision. Upper right, Ryan Parker, a prominent figure in the New Hampshire Seacoast music scene for 3 decades, is a jazz pianist, teacher, recording engineer, and DJ. Starting piano at age 12, he graduated cum laude from the University of New Hampshire with a degree in music education, where he played with jazz greats like Clark Terry, Milt Jackson, and Dick Hyman. He earned a master's in jazz studies from the New England Conservatory on a scholarship, studying with musicians like Michael Caine and Danilo Perez. Ryan took over the Sunday night jazz session at the Press Room in Portsmouth, New Hampshire in 2007, maintaining a long-standing tradition of showcasing jazz talent from New England and beyond. He formed the New England Jazz Initiative in 2007 to educate and energize the jazz community. His first jazz album featured Herb Pomeroy, and he became the youngest recipient of a New Hampshire Council on the Arts grant in 2002 for his work. Ryan is also sought after for his sound engineering skills, recording jazz concerts and classical jazz albums. Matt Jensen, lower right, is an inspired music educator known for his innovative methods in teaching diverse piano styles, including blues, jazz, and reggae. He earned a master's degree in jazz from the New England Conservatory, studying with Jerry Allen, Dave Holland, and Rand Blake. After a professional career in the Boston jazz and blues scenes, playing with artists like Ronnie Earl and Johnny Adams, Matt joined the piano faculty at Berklee College of Music in 2001. At Berklee, he created the popular course The Music and Life of Bob Marley, directing an ensemble and teaching the socio-political context and musical subtleties of reggae. His musical approach is unique, deeply influenced by Caribbean music and Bob Marley, and driven by a passion to transform humanity through music. He challenges students to engage with social justice issues through Marley's experience. Matt's distinctive contribution is his ability to connect music with social justice, fostering a deeper understanding of music's power. Now we're going to turn to some UNH guitar graduates. At the top, Brian Rowland, born April 16, 1954, passed away April 14, 2018, was a guitarist, composer, and songwriter from Cambridge, Massachusetts. His instrumental sound blended Latin and North American guitar styles. Brian began his musical journey on piano and clarinet as a child, switching to folk guitar at 12, and became a self-taught blues and rock player before pursuing formal jazz training. He studied classical theory and composition at Reed College and earned his bachelor's from the University of New Hampshire. He was also a member of the Grammys and ASCAP. Brian Kilo, lower right, is a UNH alumnus, the bachelor's in jazz performance and a master's in musicology. Brian's been a fixture of the New England music scene for 2 decades. His work spans multiple genres, from co-founding the alternative rock band Groovechild and award-winning gypsy jazz group Hot Club of Portland, to performing as a solo artist and with the Seacoast Big Band. Brian shares his passion for music as a teacher of the history of jazz at the University of New England and at Elliott Elementary School. Nick Grondin, guitarist and award-winning composer, has captivated audiences across the United States and Europe, including at the Panama Jazz Festival. Grondin's journey, which includes studies at UNH and a doctorate from the New England Conservatory, demonstrates his dedication to pushing musical boundaries. He's performed with jazz greats like Cecile McLaurin-Salvant and Dave Holland. As an educator, a resident artist at UNH, and an associate professor at Berklee, he emphasizes building musicianship and creativity. Grondin's original compositions, inspired by modern musical storytelling, can be heard on his recent album, A View of Earth. Here's some UNH bass players. Top, Tim Webb. Tim Webb's musical journey began with a childhood fascination with classic rock, sparking his dream of becoming the next Chris Squire. At UNH, he studied with John Hunter, expanding his skills to include the upright bass and playing in both jazz groups and the university orchestra. This foundational experience prepared him for a diverse career that has included free jazz, session work, and co-founding the improvising artists collective Avant Coast. His adventurous spirit continues with his current project, the Avant Groove Band Future Memory. Rob Gary, lower center, is an accomplished bassist, composer, and arranger who's made a significant mark on the northern New England music scene. A member of the jazz group Weird Turn Pro and the swing band Midnight Barbecue, Rob's compositions have been performed by the UNH Wind Symphony and the local Hour Big Band. He's also a dedicated music theory and private instructor. Nate Terrian, upper right, after earning his bachelor's in music education from UNH in 2006 and a master's in performance from New England Conservatory, Nate has balanced a career as an educator and performer. He's taught in the Concord, New Hampshire School District and PMAC, Portsmouth Music and Arts Center, and is an active performer throughout New England, including with the group Zero Gravity. Lower right, C.J. Poole, bassist and jazz vocalist. C.J. Poole is the owner and managing director of CP Music Productions. A student of John Hunter while at UNH in the late 2000s, C.J. performs regularly in the New England region and has toured to audiences around the United States. He currently plays with the New Hampshire Jazz Orchestra. Now we'll turn to some drummers. Brad Chomsky, top center, path from a UNH student to director of bands at Harrison Middle School, showcases his commitment to music education. A composer with published work and a commissioned piece, Brad uses his talent to inspire the next generation of musicians. As a clinician and guest conductor, he remains an active and influential figure in the New England music community. As a performer, he appears with the Portland Jazz Orchestra and his own groups. Upper right, Ken Clark. Ken Clark's passion for music education ignited at UNH. Since graduating, he's been instrumental in New Hampshire music education, teaching middle and high school jazz bands in the Timberlane Regional School District since 1992. He's a longtime organizer of the annual New Hampshire Music Educators All-State Jazz Festival, now known as the Clark Terry UNH Festival. And in his 21st year as chairperson for the festival, he's in his 21st year, he was awarded the first Outstanding Young Band Director by the New Hampshire Band Directors Association in 1995. He's also adjudicated and conducted various ensembles and festivals throughout New England. He believes the importance of performing experience and consistent playing as keys to lasting success in music. His commitment extends to workshops and presentations for music educators. He plays drums for the Seacoast Big Band and trumpet in local concert bands. He's also been part of a jazz quartet since the mid-1990s. Zach King, far right, on the bottom, a drummer based in Boston and New York City, honed his craft at UNH and earned his master's at New England Conservatory. He credits his early exposure to orchestral percussion in Boston and the New England metal scene for his eclectic musical tastes. His career began in southern New Hampshire schools and pit orchestras, and at 16, he landed his first Boston gig as drummer and lead vocalist for the thrash ensemble Epicenter. King has since collaborated with various artists and groups. His work reflects a versatile approach honed through diverse musical experiences and a belief in perseverance and trusting the process. He views music lessons as guided practice sessions where experimentation and learning from mistakes are encouraged. King continues to perform with Javier Rosario, Ice Giant, Purging Sin, and Vibrator. Bottom center, Rob Duquette, multi-instrumentalist singer-songwriter, leads his band, Duquette. A longtime sideband, he toured with Jonathan Edwards of the Loving Spoonful in the 1990s. Duquette also formed half of the critically acclaimed jazz folk pop duo Cactus Highway in the 2000s. He's released several albums, including his latest, Stay With Me, on which he played most of the instruments himself. Duquette's also a skilled music instructor and arranger, and his work showcases his versatility and eclectic musical range. He finds great purpose in connecting with children through music, evidenced by his Kindness program and children's album Love is Contagious. He believes in fostering kindness and exploration in young minds. Next, we'll turn to UNH vocalists. Lila Morey was originally from the Conway area, attended UNH, and later moved west to Colorado, where she taught opera at the University of Colorado and sang jazz with various groups at the Broadmoor Hotel in Colorado Springs for over 30 years. Inspired by her college English professor father and Ella Fitzgerald's music, Vicki Burns decided at 6 to become a singer. Her path included school musicals and choirs, and then writing plays and musicals at age 11. She refined her skills at UNH, performing with the touring big band, and later pursued graduate studies in improvised music at San Jose State. Burns has performed at top jazz venues and festivals, opening for jazz legends like Billy Taylor and Max Roach. Max Roach called her singing, quote, a gold mine. Her success stems from infusing each song with heartfelt expression and digging into the lyrics and melody to reveal their richness. She has a warm, confident vocal sound, interpreting lyrics with understanding, and imbues bouncier songs with controlled energy. She's been a dedicated teacher since 1984, sharing her adapted classical vocal technique with students of all ages. Louise Rogers, daughter of UNH music faculty member Professor John Rogers. Louis' voice is described as, quote, pure and incandescent. Excuse me. Moving to New York in 1997, she became active in the jazz scene. Nat Hentoff praised her as a leader in jazz education, noting her joyously encouraging way of expanding the audience for jazz. A published author of 3 books, including the Jazzy Fairy Tales Teacher's Manual, she's also a Chesky recording artist. Her album Black Coffee was considered for a Grammy. She also received the 2021 Jazz Journalists Association Jazz Hero Award. She co-founded Jazz Wahai Incorporated, a nonprofit promoting and producing jazz in Washington Heights, New York, with her husband, pianist-composer Mark Cross. Her voice has been compared to pure singers like Peggy Lee, Ella Fitzgerald, Chris Connor, and Doris Day. Best known as a jazz vocalist, Chris Humphrey's primary focus is the use of the voice as an instrument. His skills as an improviser and interpreter of song have been showcased on a number of recordings. Early among them, the album Almost Blue by the vocal group The Ritz, of which he was a member. The album featured Chris's singing, composing, and arranging talents. He also plays pro-level trombone at times in various area big bands and with his small groups. More recently, his album Nothing But Blue Sky on Cadence Jazz Records was met with overwhelmingly positive critical response. Recorded with award-winning drummer Matt Wilson and Martin Wind, Boston-based Mark Shalansky on piano, Humphrey blended energetic, fresh arrangements with originality and sincerity. Among his other musical activities, Chris can be found with various small groups, the Portland Jazz Orchestra, the Al Corey Big Band, and the Chris Humphrey Jazz Trio. UNH Jazz Composers. Anita Brown is an award-winning composer, conductor, and producer whose passion for music derives from being raised by parents who met while studying with renowned jazz pianist Lenny Tristano. During her early career as a music educator in school music programs, she experienced an inevitable epiphany in 1995, launching her 8-year fellowship in the prestigious BMI Jazz Composers Workshop. Under the tutelage of Manny Album, Jim McNeely, and Micah Benny, she honed her skills and contributed regularly to monthly reading sessions of new music. During this time, she established herself as a trusted producer, copyist, and assistant for a number of arrangers in rehearsals, recording sessions, and live events. She served on the faculty of Sarah Lawrence College, New Jersey City University, Concordia College, Bergen Community College, SUNY Purchase, and is a member of the teaching artist roster with Arts Westchester in White Plains, New York. At various times, these other fine musicians have also contributed to the healthy jazz scene at UNH and on the Seacoast. David Newsom grew up in Connecticut, where he was a student of Robert Shaw. He's a graduate of the Berklee College of Music in Boston, where he studied with Jim Kelly and William Levitt. Newsom recently completed his studies in the Modern American Music program at Longy School, where he studied with Thom Noren and Charlie Bonacos. Dave has performed in solo and group engagements throughout New England with many noted musicians and jazz legends such as Clark Terry, Phil Wilson, Joe Williams, and Milt Jackson. Taking inspiration from the innovative Laurindo Almeida, Gene Bertoncini, Wes Montgomery, and Jim Hall, Newsom uses guitar to create unforgettable interpretations of North and South American influence. He currently works as an associate professor in the guitar department at Berklee. He's also employed as a senior lecturer in music at Dartmouth College in Hanover, where he teaches guitar and jazz improvisation. He created the guitar program at the University of New Hampshire, where he teaches jazz and classical guitar, directs the UNH guitar ensembles, and coaches jazz. Jared Sims was formerly the Director of Jazz Studies at West Virginia University. He also taught at UNH, University of Rhode Island, and Boston University. He performs on all of the saxophones, clarinet, and flute. He's toured throughout the United States and in Europe, South America, and Asia, recording with an array of artists including Rufus Reid, Matt Wilson, Han Bennick, Cecil McBee, Bob Brookmeyer, Otile Burbridge, Soul Live, The Temptations, Four Tops, Artie Shaw Orchestra, and the Jimmy Dorsey Orchestra. I would be remiss if I did not include mention of some of the music educators that helped inform students at the university's long-running summer youth music school. As it benefited me back in 1965, so it continues to motivate and inspire new generations of musicians. And here are a few of the people whose dedication made this possible. Jeffrey Leonard is a summa cum laude graduate of Berklee College, having majored in music education, jazz composition, and arranging. He holds a master's degree in music from Boston University. Leonard was the director of bands and jazz program at Lexington High School starting in 1983 and served as performing arts coordinator for the Lexington Public Schools from 2008 until his retirement in 2017. A recipient of many music education awards, he's an associate professor at several Boston schools and is a multi-reed player who can often be found in theater pit orchestras as a performer and conductor all around the Boston metropolitan area. He's also an in-demand clinician, adjudicator, and conductor for regional, state, and national music festivals. Dennis Wren, born in Worcester, a graduate from Grafton High School, earned his bachelor's from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst and a master's degree in education administration from Worcester State College. He was a consummate music educator for more than 32 years, with 28 years engaged in teaching bands, orchestras, and small ensembles at Algonquin Regional High School in Northborough, Mass. Dennis was known throughout the music and theater communities of Massachusetts and New England. Through the years, he worked with literally thousands of students and adults in various music and theater venues, ranging from school events, district and state competitions, community theater, college concerts, church music, and professional gigs. He served as guest and conductor in many New England all-state and district concerts. Dennis was honored on many occasions as Jazz Educator of the Year, Outstanding Music Educator, and his performing groups earned first-place trophies in many competitions locally and nationally. Dan Buckfitch, born in 1954, is an American composer and percussionist. He's been a professor of percussion and music theory at the Lionel Hampton School of Music at the University of Idaho since 1978. He's heavily involved in the Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival and Dancers, Drummers, Dreamers, both major events on campus. He was born in Butte, Montana, and completed his undergraduate studies at Montana State University, earning a Master of Music and Composition from the University of Idaho. Buckfitch began teaching at University of Idaho in 1978 and runs the percussion studio, teaches freshman music theory and aural skills, and directs the jazz choir. It seems fitting to conclude this section about the University of New Hampshire to say some complimentary words about Dave Seiler's successor, Nate Jorgensen, who has taken on an important role in the Seacoast community and is doing an amazing job preserving and continuing the rich tradition established by Dave and Paul Verrett decades before. Dr. Jorgensen is responsible for teaching applied sax lessons, directs 2 jazz ensembles, serves as an administrator and coordinator of the Clark Terry Jazz Festival, and is the producer of the UNH Traditional Jazz Series. He's an accomplished jazz and classical saxophonist and feels at home in nearly every musical situation. Jorgensen holds several degrees from Kansas schools and has had the opportunity to share the stage with notable jazz performers such as Terrell Stafford, Bobby Watson, Bobby Shue, Gary Foster, Bob Shepard, and many others. At UNH, he regularly hosts residencies by some of the top performers, composers, and historians in jazz today. As director, he started an annual commissioning project dedicated to his predecessor, Dave Seiler. His bands have premiered new works from composers such as John Clayton, Dan Gailey, John LaBarbera, and Paul Kruger. He does freelance work throughout New England and can regularly be heard performing in a variety of settings in the Seacoast region. He's also the director of the Seacoast Big Band, for whom he's provided a home at the university in the band room. As we're coming down the home stretch, I just wanted to mention a few other venues in Portsmouth that are currently helping support a healthy jazz scene and the musicians who are actively creating vibrant culture that stands in contrast to many of the problems our social order is experiencing. A veteran tap dancer, Drika Overton has studied with Honey Coles, Jimmy Slide, Eddie Brown, Choli Atkins, Keith Terry, and Brenda Buffalino, among many others. As a longtime producer and performer, She shared the stage with such notables as Jimmy Slide, Savion Glover, Fayard Nichols, and Bill Irwin, and has collaborated with musical director Paul Oslanian, creating works such as Clara's Dream, a jazz nutcracker, Music Hall Follies, a vaudeville in 9 acts, and Off the Beaten Path, a jazz and tap odyssey. She's the founder and producer of the Portsmouth Percussive Dance Festival in 1995 and director of the venue, the Dance Hall in Kittery, Maine, since its inception in 2010. She recently retired, and the position has been taken now by Eric Claxton, whom we will talk about briefly a little later in this presentation. One very talented student to emerge from Portsmouth was Russ Grazier, Portsmouth High School class of 1986. Russ is the founder of the Portsmouth Music and Arts School, which has been very active since 2002 in successfully motivating and inspiring thousands of Seacoast music and arts students of all ages. Their jazz education program has had a wide-ranging influence on jazz appreciation and performance, with many fine teachers and players of the idiom on their staff, many of whom combine in different ways to form the variety of jazz and experimental groups that now appear weekly in the Seacoast. After the pandemic, people are hungry for live music and companionship, and we see many restaurants and bars opening their doors for smaller combinations of musicians to provide that need. Russ and the Portsmouth Music and Arts Center are offering the community a valuable service with their music and arts instructions and meeting place for creative minds. PMAC faculty Mike Effenberger is a major influence on the scene, having been a recording and performing artist who's been living in the New Hampshire Seacoast since 2007. He received the Young Beacon in Jazz Award from New School University in New York City, from which he graduated in 2005. While there, he studied with diverse artists including Jane Ira Bloom, Kenny Werner, John Hollenbeck, Reggie Workman, Fred Hirsch, and Joanne Brackeen. Mike has curated an unmistakably individual voice that draws on gospel, minimalism, jazz, and 20th century music. Currently a board member of the Seacoast Jazz Society, Mike plays throughout New England with a variety of bands, including 5813, Jazz Putin and the Jug Skunks, the secular roots and gospel choir Rock My Soul, Our Big Band, and the Showman's Rest. He leads Weird Turn Pro with bassist Rob Gary, that plays his original music. When not in the Northeast, Mike performs internationally with Bing and Ruth and plays throughout the East Coast with the Soggy Po Boys. His work has been written about in international publications, including the Paris Review, The Guardian, and Pitchfork, as well as appearing on nationally syndicated media, including NPR's All Things Considered and PRX's Echoes. When not at a piano bench, he can typically be found in the woods. Nick Phaneuf, a bassist, performs throughout the East Coast with bands Showman's Rest, Dan Blakesley at the Calabash Club, and 5813. He has taught at PMAC since 2008 as a private instructor, music technology teacher, and co-director of the PMAC Rock Band program. Nick lives in Barrington with his wife Michaela, his son Winter, and their dog Zaphod. Chris Claxton, another mover and shaker in the current musical Seacoast world. Chris studied trumpet under Dr. Clark Terry, Dr. Robert Stibler at UNH, Jason Carter, who is a veteran of the Ray Charles Orchestra, and Brian Lynch from Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers, as well as recently studying composition with Dave Douglas and renowned film composer and trumpeter Terrence Blanchard. Now teaching at both UNH and Phillips Exeter Academy, Chris can also be found in groups of varying styles ranging from jazz, bluegrass, and hip-hop to indie rock and classical music. Jim Dozay attended the University of New Hampshire, where he studied under David Newsom. After graduating from UNH, he studied privately with renowned Berkeley professor Bruce Bartlett, who played with Billy Cobham and Chick Corea. He's taught locally for the past 20 years, both privately and at local music stores. While maintaining a busy teaching schedule, he performs regularly, both locally and regionally, with various groups in a variety of styles. Brian Shanker Adler is a prolific drummer, percussionist, and composer who grew up in the mountains of upstate New York. With a background in Indian music, a conservatory training, and over 15 years of professional experience in New York City, Adler eats, sleeps, and breathes rhythm. He's worked with Bob Brookmeyer, Bombay Ricky, Sheila Jordan, L.A. Opera, Kate McGarry, Guillermo Klein, and Ray Vega. He's been featured in Modern German Magazine, Downbeat, Jazz Times, and NPR's New Sounds. His music video, Mantra, won Best Music Video at Trans Cinema International Film Festival in Peru and at the 2020 Independent Music Awards. Adler has toured 4 continents, has been recorded on more than 30 albums, and currently leads Human Time Machine. Josh Gangig is a trombonist, educator, and creative professional based in Boston. Through advanced technical study and many years of private study on the instrument, Josh has been able to pursue playing in various groups as a student at University of New Hampshire and the Eastman School of Music, as well as many professional settings. In addition to his classical training, Josh developed a passion for jazz while surrounded by the rich improvised music scene in New England. His interests were given direction and focus by acclaimed teachers such as Chris Oberholzer, Kendall Moore, Mark Shalansky, Mark Kellogg, and Dante Luciani. At the University of New Hampshire, his jazz studies were driven by performing ensembles such as the 3 O'Clock Jazz Band and several jazz combos. He maintains an active calendar of professional and commercial performances throughout the East Coast. Another UNH saxophonist, Eric Claxton, earned his master's degree in jazz and contemporary music from Longy School in the spring of 22. Notably, he's studied saxophone with Noah Preminger and Bill McHenry, as well as composition with Ben Allison and Frank Carlberg. He's a founding member of the Soggy Po' Boys and can be found playing woodwinds in Sojoy and Our Big Band. In addition to his work with collective ensembles, he writes and arranges original works for various groups of his own, imbued with traditions from jazz, rock, folk, and electronic music. He recently took over as managing director of the Dance Hall in Kittery, Maine. Nick Manella is a jazz educator and saxophonist residing in the Portsmouth, New Hampshire area. He's the creator and host of the 10-Minute Jazz Lesson podcast and YouTube channel. He's also the director of jazz at Southern New Hampshire University. Nick mentors serious jazz students from around the world in his exclusive program, the Jazz Education Intensive, a year-long system that turns participants into capable working professional musicians. Nick's educational ideas and systems have been featured on outlets around the world, including Learn Jazz Standards, Musical U, the Growing Band Director podcast, Contrabass Conversations, Best Saxophone Website Ever, and more. Nick regularly travels throughout the U.S. presenting clinics and workshops to audiences of students and educators. He's also a published author with Hal Leonard, having authored a definitive saxophone text, Comprehensive Saxophone Warm-Ups. Nick has had the pleasure of studying with some of the greatest teachers in the world, including Clark Terry, Billy Hart, James Moody, Trent Kynaston, Jared Sims, and Mike Tucker. Nick received his Bachelor of Saxophone from the University of New Hampshire, his Master of Jazz Performance from Western Michigan University. He also maintains an international touring schedule featuring ensembles such as the Nick Manella Quartet, the Soggy Po' Boys, and Our Big Band. Known for her exploratory use of vocal color and texture and sincere delivery in her musical stylings, Taylor O'Donnell is a contemporary vocalist, educator, and conductor who uses her roots in R&B, folk, jazz, rock, and classical music to communicate her musical dialogue. Growing up in Colorado, where she was a student of Lila Maury's, and living all over the country from Florida to Maine, her performing experience has taken her from playing with her own jazz trio on cruise ships and throughout New England to performing as a guest artist with symphony orchestras. Her musical diversity informs her deep love for vocal improvisation and for exploring a plethora of sounds and colors to connect more deeply with her audience. Another UNH keyboard player not mentioned earlier, Johnny Pfeiffer's interests lie in the areas of composition and collaboration with other area musicians. His group Sojoy combines these two elements and exhibits the participatory spirit of today's Portsmouth musicians. Created by the Labrie brothers for their late father, who loved jazz, Jimmy's Jazz Club stands on the site of the old YWC on Congress Street in Portsmouth and features a state-of-the-art sound system and accommodations for corporate functions, parties, and weddings, as well as headlining nationally known blues and jazz artists several nights a week. No expense was spared in making this the best jazz club in the Northeast, surpassing even clubs in Boston with a great menu and listening room policy that requests quiet attention when the music is happening. Here's an interior shot of Jimmy's. I was privileged to play a bunch there this past Sunday. To wrap things up, we now see more clearly how the interaction of the evolving art scene in Portsmouth and the developing music program at UNH synergistically combined to nourish several generations of jazz artists who have fanned out across the state of New Hampshire and beyond to continue passing on the jazz language and generally have a positive impact on American culture and music in the future. I welcome comments and suggestions to improve the quality of these presentations. You can reach me through my website, charliejennison.com. Thank you, and good night.